Friday, June 21, 1974, 9:34 p.m. Waylon Jennings sat in dressing room B and looked at an empty bottle on a wooden table. 26 minutes until showtime. Smoke hanging in the air. Single lamp casting shadows across cracked mirror. Set list paper. Pen. Whiskey glass. Chalky white residue where the last of something used to be. And a hallway full of people waiting for him to walk on stage and be who they paid to see. Waylon unscrewed the bottle, shook it, nothing. Then he did something nobody expected. He sat there, quiet, thinking. What happened in the next 8 seconds didn't just save a show. It created a legend that would follow Waylon Jennings through every tour bus, every backstage room, every roadhouse for the rest of his life. A story about the night he chose control over relief and refused to let someone else pay for his weakness. To understand what happened in dressing room B, you need to understand what the road was like in 1974. It wasn't glamorous, wasn't easy, wasn't anything except a grind. The road was where outlaws went to prove they could survive what Nashville couldn't control. Late nights, early mornings, long drives, bad food, pressure from labels, pressure from promoters, pressure from the people who believed you were supposed to be invincible. And by 1974, Waylon Jennings was the king of that world. He'd fought his way out of every contract that tried to own him. Told RCA to back off. Told producers he'd record his own way. Told Nashville he didn't need permission. He'd earned his freedom the hard way. But freedom on the road came with a cost. You played hurt. You played tired. You played through hangovers and heartbreak and nights when you couldn't remember which city you were in. And sometimes, you took things to keep going. Pills weren't recreation. They were fuel. They were how you survived back-to-back shows in different states. How you stayed sharp when your body wanted to shut down. How you kept the machine running when the machine was you. Waylon wasn't proud of it, but he wasn't pretending it didn't happen either. And tonight the bottle was empty. The Amarillo Civic Auditorium wasn't fancy. Just a mid-sized venue with decent acoustics and a crowd that knew every word to every song. Sold out. Standing room only. The kind of show where you couldn't hide mistakes. The label had people there, watching, taking notes. The band was tuned and ready. The promoter was already counting money. And Waylon was sitting in dressing room B with an empty bottle and a clock that wouldn't stop. Billy Ledger Landry stepped through the door first. Tour manager. Early 30s. The guy who kept everything moving with duct tape and phone calls. He saw the bottle. Saw Waylon's face. "We good?" Billy asked quietly. Waylon didn't answer right away. Billy stepped closer. Lowered his voice. "We can't push the show," Billy said. "Promoter's already nervous. Label guys are asking questions. We just need you steady." Waylon looked at him. "I'm steady," Waylon said. But his hand said something else. Tommy T. Bar Benson appeared in the doorway. Steel guitar. Band captain. The one who could read Waylon's mood before Waylon opened his mouth. Tommy looked at the table. Looked at Waylon. Didn't say anything. Just leaned against the doorframe and waited. That's when Kurt Hensley walked in. Kurt wasn't part of the band. Wasn't part of the crew. He was a local fixer. The kind of guy who showed up when people needed things they couldn't ask for out loud. He'd been around the venue all night. Talking to runners. Talking to security. Waiting. Like he'd been timed to the second. Kurt stepped into dressing room B and closed the door halfway behind him. He didn't smile. Didn't need to. "Heard you might need something," Kurt said quietly. Waylon looked at him. Kurt reached into his jacket, pulled out a small glossy envelope, set it on the table beside the empty bottle. Inside the envelope, a handwritten IOU. A tour advance paper with a signature line at the bottom, and one sentence typed across the top. "Tonight only." Waylon stared at it. Billy stepped closer. "Waylon, don't," Waylon said quietly. Kurt leaned against the wall, relaxed, patient. "It's simple," Kurt said. "You sign the paper, you get what you need. You walk on stage steady. Everybody wins." Waylon picked up the envelope, looked at the IOU, the signature line, the terms buried in small print at the bottom. This wasn't help. This was leverage. The IOU wasn't just about tonight. It was about next time. And the time after that. It was about turning relief into obligation, turning need into ownership. Waylon set the envelope back down. "What happens if I don't sign?" Waylon asked. Kurt shrugged. Then you don't get what you need. And you walk out there shaking. Billy's face went pale. Tommy shifted his weight in the doorway, still didn't say anything, but his jaw tightened. There was a knock on the door. Janice Rourke, stage manager. Clipboard, headset. No patience. 20 minutes, Janice said through the door. Her voice was a countdown. A weapon. Waylon looked at the envelope, looked at the empty bottle, looked at the clock on the wall. Then he looked at Eddie Kidd, Navarro standing near the guitar cases in the corner. Eddie was 22, guitar tech. Eager. Disposable to everyone except Waylon. Eddie was the one they'd normally send, the errand boy. The kid who'd run out into the night and come back with whatever was needed and take the risk so no one else had to. Waylon had seen it happen 100 times on 100 tours. And he wasn't going to let it happen tonight. Waylon looked at the envelope one more time. Then he let the silence sit. 1 second. 2. 3. The lamp hummed. The hallway buzzed with pre-show noise. Distant crowd roar leaked through the walls. Billy couldn't breathe right. Kurt watched. Waiting. 4 seconds. 5. 6. Waylon didn't move. Didn't reach for the envelope. Just sat there like he was calculating something nobody else could see. 7 seconds. 8. Then Waylon spoke. 1 sentence. Calm. Final. Nobody leaves this room for me. Billy blinked. What? Waylon looked at Eddie, then at Tommy, then at Billy. Nobody runs an errand I'm not willing to run myself, Waylon said quietly. And I'm not running this one. Kurt straightened up. His smile faded. You're making this harder than it needs to be, Kurt said. Waylon stood up slowly. Didn't raise his voice. Didn't make threats. He just looked at Kurt, then at the envelope on the table. And he did something nobody expected. He slid the envelope back across the table. Take it back, Waylon said. The room went still. Billy's mouth opened. No words came out. Tommy pushed off the doorframe, watching. Kurt looked at the envelope, looked at Waylon. You sure about this? Kurt asked quietly. I'm sure, Waylon said. Kurt picked up the envelope, folded it once, slipped it back into his jacket. Your call, Kurt said. Then he walked out. Billy stood there, pale, shaking his head. Waylon, you can't. Waylon turned to Eddie. Go stand by the stage, Waylon said quietly. You don't run for me. Not tonight. Not ever. Eddie looked confused, relieved, grateful. He nodded and slipped out the door. Waylon looked at Tommy. We go on, Waylon said. Same set. No games. Tommy studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right, Tommy said. Billy was still standing there, stunned. You're really gonna do this? Waylon picked up his guitar, checked the tuning. Yeah, Waylon said. I am. Another knock on the door. 5 minutes, Janice called. Waylon stood, black cowboy hat, black stage suit, guitar in hand. He looked at Billy one more time. If I sign for relief, Waylon said quietly, I'll owe them forever. Billy didn't respond, just watched Waylon walk toward the door. The hallway was bright, cold blue light, crew moving equipment, band members tuning, promoter's assistant standing near the stage entrance, watching. 2 suits stood further down the hall, label people, arms crossed, waiting to see if the show would happen. Waylon walked past all of them. Tommy fell in step beside him. You good? No, Waylon said. But I'm walking. They reached the stage entrance. The crowd roar was louder now, restless. Ready. Billy caught up, breathless. Waylon, if you can't, I can, Waylon said. He stepped toward the stage. The band expected a collapse. They'd seen Waylon play hurt before, seen him play tired, seen him play through nights when he should have been in a hospital bed. But they'd never seen him play raw. No cushion, no chemical courage, just willpower and muscle memory, and a refusal to let the machine win. The lights hit. The crowd erupted. Waylon stepped up to the mic, guitar strap over his shoulder, hand steady enough. He looked at Tommy, nodded. The first song hit, and it was tight. Not perfect, not polished, but real. Waylon's voice was rough. His hands were working harder than usual, but the timing was there. The energy was there. The band watched him like they were seeing something they'd never seen before. Because the legend wasn't that he found something. The legend was that he didn't. Halfway through the set, Tommy caught Waylon's eye during a guitar break. Waylon gave him a small nod. Tommy nodded back. The rest of the band fell in tighter, covered the rough edges, played like they were holding him up without making it obvious. By the end of the set, the crowd was on their feet. Waylon walked off stage, soaked in sweat, hands shaking slightly, but upright. Billy was waiting backstage, pale, relieved. "I thought you were gonna fold," Tommy said quietly, setting his steel guitar down. Waylon leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "I almost did," Waylon said. Eddie appeared with a towel and a bottle of water, handed them to Waylon without saying anything. Waylon took them, looked at Eddie. "Thanks, kid," Waylon said. Eddie nodded, then he walked away. Kurt Hensley was gone, disappeared back into whatever hallway he'd come from. The suits were already heading toward the exit, satisfied the show had happened. Tommy sat down on a road case, looked at Waylon. "You know that's gonna cost you tomorrow," Tommy said. "I know," Waylon said. "You also know you just made it harder on yourself." "Yeah." Tommy smiled slightly. "Why'd you do it?" Waylon thought about it. Took a drink of water. "Because I wasn't gonna send that kid into the dark for me," Waylon said quietly. "And I wasn't gonna sign my name to something that would own me." Tommy nodded slowly. "Fair enough." Billy sat down beside them, still shaking his head. "You're crazy," Billy said. "Maybe," Waylon said, "but I'm still standing." The story of what happened on June 21, 1974 didn't make the news, didn't make the trades, didn't get reported anywhere. It just became one of those whispers, one of those legends. "You hear about Waylon in Amarillo? What happened? Ran out before the show. Fixer tried to make a deal. What'd Waylon do? Told him to take it back. Walked on stage anyway. How'd the show go? Tight. Real. Band said they'd never seen anything like it. Within a month, every musician on the Outlaw circuit knew the story. Within 6 months, it had reached Nashville. And by the time Waylon's legend was cemented, the story was part of why. Not because he was invincible. Because he chose control when it would have been easier to fold. He didn't send Eddie into the night. Didn't sign the paper. Didn't let fear or need or pressure make his decisions. He walked on stage raw and played anyway. And the band who'd seen him at his best and his worst realized that night what made Waylon different. It wasn't the talent, it wasn't the voice, it was the refusal to be owned. Years later, a young musician asked Waylon about the road, about how to survive it, about what to do when you're running on empty, and the show won't wait. Waylon thought about it for a moment. Then he said, "You protect your people. You don't sign things you can't unsign. And you walk on stage even when you don't think you can. Because the moment you let someone else carry your weight, you stop being free." The young musician asked, "What if you can't make it?" Waylon smiled, just slightly. "Then you fall. But you fall on your terms." That was the lesson from June 21, 1974. Strength isn't about never needing help, it's about not letting that need turn into ownership. Power isn't about being fearless. It's about choosing dignity, when it costs you. And freedom isn't something you win once. It's something you protect every single time someone tries to take it. Dressing Room B was built to trap him. The envelope was designed to own him. The countdown was meant to break him. But Waylon Jennings understood something most people don't. The easiest way to lose yourself isn't in one big moment. It's in all the small ones where you let someone else decide what you're worth. And that night, in a smoky dressing room in Amarillo, Texas, Waylon decided he was worth more than relief. He was worth keeping clean. That's what made him dangerous. And different.